My mother-in-law and husband racked up 200, zero in debt for a beach house. Then they told me, all right, honey, sell your apartment to pay off our debt. And the lake house, too. Don't argue. I just smiled in a way that made them uneasy, turned around, and left. The next morning, you know that feeling when someone thinks they're so clever but they're actually walking straight into a trap? Well, let me tell you about the day my husband Mark and his mother Dorothy thought they could bulldoze me into selling everything I owned. Spoiler alert, it didn't go quite how they planned. I'm Sarah, and I've been married to Mark for 8 years. 8 years of his mother treating me like I'm some kind of temporary inconvenience in her son's life. Dorothy's one of those women who thinks her boy can do no wrong, and every problem in his life is somehow my fault. You know the type. So there I was, sitting in our Chicago apartment on a Tuesday evening, when Mark comes home with this weird energy. He's fidgeting with his keys, won't look me in the eye, and keeps clearing his throat like he's about to give a presentation. Everywhere. Sarah, honey, we need to talk, he says, and my stomach drops. Nothing good ever starts with those words. Before I can even respond, the front door opens again. Of course, Dorothy waltzes in like she owns the place, which apparently she thinks she does. She's got that smug smile she wears when she thinks she's about to win something. Oh good, you're both here, she says, settling into my favorite chair like she's holding court. We have some exciting news to share. Exciting news, right. I'm already mentally preparing for whatever disaster they're about to dump on me. Mark sits down across from me, still avoiding eye contact. So, you know how moms always dreamed of having a place by the ocean? I nod slowly, wondering where this is going but already not liking it. Well? Dorothy jumps in, practically bouncing with excitement. We found the most gorgeous beach house in Malibu. 3 bedrooms, ocean view, private beach access. It's absolutely perfect. That's nice, I say carefully. Did you put in an offer? They look at each other, and I swear I see them communicate with their eyes. Mark clears his throat again. Actually, we already bought it. The words hit me like a slap. You what? Now, before you get upset, Dorothy says, holding up her hand like she's directing traffic, it's an investment. Property values in Malibu are only going up. How much? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Another look between them. Mark's face is turning red now. 200,000. The room goes completely silent. I can hear the neighbor's TV through the wall, some game show where people are cheering. It feels surreal. $200,000, I repeat slowly. Where did you get $200,000? Well, Dorothy says, and now she's not quite meeting my eyes either. That's where things get a little complicated. A little complicated. I'm starting to feel like I'm in some kind of alternate reality. Mark finally speaks up. We took out a loan. Against the beach house and, well, against your lake house too. My lake house. The one I inherited from my grandmother. The one that's been in my family for 3 generations. The one that's in my name only. Excuse me? Now, Sarah, Dorothy says in that condescending tone she uses when she thinks I'm being unreasonable. Don't get all dramatic, it's just paperwork. Just paperwork. This woman just told me they used my family property as collateral for their fantasy beach house, and she's calling it paperwork. How is that even legal? I ask, and I'm proud that my voice is still steady. Mark shifts in his seat. Well, technically, as your husband, I have certain rights to marital property, and the lawyers said. You talked to lawyers about this without me? The silence stretches out again. Dorothy's smile is getting a little strained around the edges. Look, honey, she says, leaning forward like we're having a heart-to-heart. Here's the thing. The monthly payments on this loan are pretty substantial, about $15,000 a month. $15,000 a month. I think I might actually be having an out-of-body experience. So we've been thinking, Mark says, and I can tell he's rehearsed this part. Maybe it's time to downsize a little, simplify things. What Mark is trying to say, Dorothy jumps in, is that we need you to sell your apartment here in Chicago, and probably the lake house too. Don't argue. She adds quickly, like she's dealing with a stubborn child. It's the only way to pay off our debt. Our debt, not their debt, our debt. I sit there for a moment, just looking at them. Mark's staring at his hands now, and Dorothy's still got that fake smile plastered on her face. They actually think this is going to work. They actually think they can just announce that they've gambled away my inheritance and my home, and I'll just go along with it. Something inside me shifts. It's like a switch flipping, and suddenly, I'm not angry anymore. I'm calm, dangerously calm. I smile. It's not a nice smile. It's the kind of smile that makes people take a step back, even when they're sitting down. All right, I say softly. They both look surprised. Dorothy's smile gets a little more genuine. All right? Mark asks. All right, I repeat, still smiling that same smile. I stand up slowly, grab my purse from the coffee table, and head toward the door. Where are you going? Dorothy calls after me. I turn around in the doorway and look at them both. Mark looks confused. Dorothy looks uneasy. Like she's starting to realize that maybe my calm acceptance isn't the victory she thought it was. Oh, don't worry about me, I say, still wearing that smile. I'm just going to take care of a few things. And then I leave. Just like that. I walk out of my own apartment and leave them sitting there, probably wondering what just happened. The next morning, I'm up early. Really early. I've been up most of the night, actually, making phone calls and sending emails. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're properly motivated. I'm sitting in a coffee shop downtown when my phone starts ringing, Mark. I let it go to voicemail, then Dorothy calls. Voicemail, then Mark again, and again. Finally, I answer. Sarah, thank God, Mark says, and he sounds panicked. Where are you? We need to talk. I'm having coffee, I say pleasantly. Beautiful morning, isn't it? Sarah, something's wrong. We got a call from the bank. They're saying there's a problem with the loan. Oh? I take a sip of my latte. What kind of problem? They're saying the lake house can't be used as collateral because... His voice trails off. Because what, Mark? Because it's in a trust, Sarah. What did you do? I smile, even though he can't see me. I protected my family's property, you know, the way responsible people do. What Mark doesn't know, what neither of them knew, is that after my grandmother died, I didn't just inherit the lake house. I inherited her paranoia about people trying to take advantage of family property, so I had it put into an irrevocable trust, with me as the sole beneficiary and my sister Jessica as the trustee. Mark never bothered to read the paperwork when we got married. He just assumed that what's yours is mine applied to everything, but trusts are funny things. They're specifically designed to protect assets from exactly this kind of situation. Sarah, you need to fix this, Mark says, and now he's not asking. He's demanding. The bank is threatening to call in the loan immediately if we can't provide adequate collateral. I say, stirring my coffee thoughtfully. That does sound like a problem. Our problem, he corrects. We're married, Sarah. Your problems are my problems, and my problems are yours. You know what, Mark? You're absolutely right. Your problems are my problems. Which is why I've been working so hard to solve them. What do you mean? Well, I've been thinking about what you and your mother said yesterday. About simplifying things. About downsizing. And you know what? You're right. It is time for some changes. I can hear Dorothy in the background now, asking Mark what's happening. Her voice sounds shrill. I've filed for divorce, I say casually, like I'm talking about the weather. I dropped the papers off at your office this morning. You should have them by now. The silence on the other end is deafening. You. What? I filed for divorce. And before you start calculating how much of my assets you think you're entitled to, you should know that I've also filed a fraud complaint with the police. Using someone else's property as collateral without their knowledge or consent? That's actually a felony, Mark. Sarah, you can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. But we're married? We're supposed to work through problems together. You're right. We are supposed to work through problems together. But you didn't want to work through this problem together, did you? You wanted to create the problem without me, and then force me to fix it. That's not a marriage, Mark. That's a hostage situation. I can hear Dorothy in the background, and she's not speaking in her usual controlled tone anymore. She's yelling something about ungrateful wives and family loyalty. Put your mother on the phone, I say. Sarah, I don't think. Put her on the phone, Mark. A moment later, Dorothy's voice comes through, and she's trying to sound calm, but I can hear the edge of panic underneath. Sarah, dear, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Dorothy. You and your son committed fraud. You used my property as collateral for your debt without my knowledge or consent. And then you had the audacity to tell me to sell everything I owned to pay for your mistake. Now, that's not exactly. Here's what's going to happen, I interrupt. You have exactly 30 days to figure out how to pay off that loan without involving any of my assets. If you can't, the bank will foreclose on your precious beach house, and you'll still owe them the difference. And since you can't use my lake house as collateral, because it was never yours to use, you'll have to figure out another way. Sarah, please. I'm not finished. You're also going to need to find somewhere else to live, because once my divorce is finalized, Mark won't be able to afford the rent on our apartment. My apartment, which is also in a trust, by the way. Amazing what good legal advice can do. The silence stretches out so long I wonder if the call dropped. Are you still there, Dorothy? You're making a mistake, she says finally, and her voice is ice cold. Family is everything. You can't just throw away 8 years of marriage over money. You're right, I say. Family is everything. Which is why I'm protecting mine. My grandmother worked her whole life to build something for her family. She didn't build it so her granddaughter's husband and his mother could gamble it away on beachfront property. This isn't over, Dorothy says. Actually, it is. Oh, and Dorothy? You might want to call a good bankruptcy lawyer. I hear Chapter 7 can be quite liberating. I hang up and finish my coffee. My phone immediately starts ringing again, but I turn it off. I've said everything I need to say. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting on the dock at the lake house. My lake house, watching the sunset. Jessica is with me, and we're sharing a bottle of champagne. Well, she's drinking champagne. I'm drinking sparkling cider because I'm celebrating, not drowning my sorrows. So what happened with the beach house? Jessica asks. Foreclosure. I say. They put it on the market last week. Apparently, Dorothy tried to get a second mortgage on her own house to cover the payments, but her credit's not good enough. And Mark? Moved back in with his mother, which is probably where he belonged all along. Jessica raises her glass. To Grandma's trust fund. To Grandma's paranoia, I correct, clinking my glass against hers. She always said the most dangerous people are the ones who think they're entitled to what you've worked for. Think you'll ever remarry? I consider this, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. Maybe. But next time, I'm definitely getting a prenup, and a background check, and maybe a psychological evaluation. Jessica laughs. That might be overkill. Dorothy and Mark didn't think so. They spent months planning this whole thing. Did you know they'd been looking at that beach house for over a year? Mark's been forging my signature on documents, talking to lawyers, setting up the loan. This wasn't some impulsive decision. This was a calculated plan to steal everything I inherited and leave me with nothing but their debt. How did you find out about the signature thing? The bank records. Amazing what a good forensic accountant can uncover when you actually hire one. Turns out Mark's been practicing my signature for months. He's got notebooks full of attempts. The FBI was very interested in those notebooks. Wire fraud. Using forged documents to obtain loans across state lines. Federal crime. I take another sip of my cider. Mark's looking at 5 to 10 years, assuming he takes the plea deal. And Dorothy? Conspiracy charges. She's the one who found the lawyers, set up the meetings, coached Mark on what to say. She was the mastermind, and she left a paper trail a mile long. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars come out. It's peaceful here, it always has been. My grandmother used to say that some places hold on to happiness, and this is one of them. Do you ever feel bad about it? Jessica asks eventually. About Mark, I mean. You did love him once. I think about this. Do I feel bad? Mark's probably sitting in his childhood bedroom right now, trying to figure out how to pay for a criminal defense attorney. His whole life has imploded in the space of a month. I feel bad for the man I thought I married, I say finally. The one who would never have even considered doing something like this. But that man apparently never existed. The real Mark is someone who thought he could steal my inheritance and manipulate me into thanking him for it. Fair enough. Besides, I add, I gave them a choice. I told them they had 30 days to figure out how to pay off the loan without involving my assets. They could have sold Dorothy's house. They could have taken out personal loans. They could have asked relatives for help. Instead, they spent those 30 days trying to find a way to force me to comply. They hired a lawyer to challenge the trust. They tried to have me declared mentally incompetent. Dorothy actually called my boss and told him I was having a nervous breakdown. She didn't. She did. She told him I was making irrational financial decisions and couldn't be trusted with client accounts. Fortunately, my boss knows me well enough to know that was nonsense, but still. They spent more energy trying to destroy my life than they did trying to fix their own mistake. Jessica shakes her head. Unbelievable. The thing is, I continue, I think they genuinely believed they were entitled to my money. Not just entitled to it, they thought they were doing me a favor by taking it. Like I was too stupid to manage my own finances, and they were the responsible adults who needed to step in and make decisions for me. Classic, narcissistic behavior. Probably. But you know what? I'm grateful it happened. Jessica looks at me like I've lost my mind. Grateful? Think about it. If they'd been smarter about it, if they'd asked me first, or if they'd been more subtle about the manipulation, I might have actually gone along with it. I might have sold the apartment in the lake house and spent the rest of my life making payments on their dream house, thinking I was being a good wife and daughter-in-law. Instead, they overplayed their hand. Exactly. They were so confident they could bully me into compliance that they didn't bother to be sneaky about it. They just announced their plan and expected me to fall in line. And that overconfidence is what gave me the evidence I needed to stop them. We finish our drinks as the night settles in around us. Tomorrow, I'll drive back to Chicago and get back to my regular life. But it's a different life now. A life where I don't have to worry about someone else's financial disasters becoming my responsibility. A life where my grandmother's legacy is safe. So, what's next? Jessica asks as we're packing up. I'm thinking about taking a vacation. I say, maybe somewhere with a beach. I hear Malibu is nice this time of year. I could probably get a good deal on a rental. There's apparently a beautiful house that just came on the market. Jessica grins. You're terrible. I'm learning to be, I say, and I mean it. For 8 years, I tried to be the perfect wife, the accommodating daughter-in-law, the person who always went along to get along. It never occurred to me that being too nice, too trusting, too willing to compromise was actually putting everything I cared about at risk. My grandmother knew better. She lived through the Depression, watched people lose everything because they trusted the wrong people with their security. She built her wealth slowly, carefully, and she protected it fiercely. and she taught me to do the same, even though I didn't understand the lesson until it was almost too late. You know what the best part is? I say as we walk back to the house. What? I never have to see Dorothy again. For 8 years, I've had to smile and nod while she criticized everything from my cooking to my career to my clothes. I've had to listen to her talk about how Mark deserves better, how he settled when he married me, how I'm holding him back from reaching his potential. And now? Now she gets to explain to everyone in her social circle why her son is facing federal charges and she's filing for bankruptcy. She gets to explain how she lost her dream house and her reputation because she tried to steal from her daughter-in-law. Poetic justice. The best kind. As I lock up the lake house and head back to my car, I'm already planning my next steps. The divorce will be finalized in a few months. The criminal cases will take longer, but that's not my problem anymore. I've got my assets protected, my future secured, and my dignity intact. Most importantly, I've learned something valuable about myself. I'm stronger than I thought I was. I'm smarter than people give me credit for. And I'm definitely not the pushover that Mark and Dorothy thought they were dealing with. They wanted to play games with my money? Fine. But they should have remembered that the best games are won not by the person who makes the first move, but by the person who makes the last one. And I always get the last move.